As a young person, it is very hurtful to see a fellow young man succumb to not disease nor any condition of physical harm, but dying in the hands of the police. And Madam Speaker, before I just contribute here, I wanted to thank Mr. Speaker so much for the kindness he had extended and the urgency he has put on the matter of the death of Albert Ojwang by making sure that the CS, as well as the officers who are charged with our security, can be in this house tomorrow. And I wanted to urge all my colleagues, senators, that this is the time that the nation needs you most. This is the time that tomorrow we should not have a quorum hitch or even delay of debate and engagement, that the House tomorrow, all senators should come on time so that we can be able to interrogate the matter of Albert Ojwang at 9 a.m. We'll be here so that by 9:30 when the House rises, then we can be able to deal with that issue. And I want to thank all the senators for taking this issue seriously and the comments that you've made, and as well as I do extend my heartfelt condolences and my sympathies to the family of Albert Ojwang. I know I'll try and control my emotions so that I can be able to contribute on this equally important matter, the matter of the formula for which we push forward to be able to share resources among counties. Madam Speaker, I am a member of Finance and Budget Committee, and I was part of the team, therefore, that tried to think about what would be the best fourth basis formula for us to be able to share the resources that we have for counties horizontally. And Madam Speaker, while there were a number of suggestions by the CRA on the matter of sharing revenue, we felt very strongly that it's important that we have one parameter. And that parameter, Madam Speaker, is that there is no county that should lose in this avenue of sharing resources after what we have gotten from the national coffers, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, when we created the formula, everything we considered was to make sure that that principle abides. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we suggested that we come up with a baseline that will always ensure that when resources are shared in this country, or when the basis for sharing resources is considered, then no county ever loses what they have gotten. And there is a reason behind this, Madam Speaker. The reason is very simple. Counties get to commit to different projects, get to commit to different non-discretionary and discretionary budgetary requirements. Therefore, if you put any formula that makes any county lose a shilling, you inconvenience that county. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the issue of inflation will always catch up with counties, Madam Speaker. For instance, if you think about the wage drift, there is a big consideration that adjusts itself by 5% in our payroll systems every year automatically. If you deny a county a shilling from what they got in the previous allocation, then you end up being injurious to their planning purposes. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the idea of the baseline of 387 is in and itself a very important one. And Madam Speaker, I therefore will dissuade any amendment that augments that baseline, that brings it to zero or any other thing. But now, Madam Speaker, when we came to this House, the issue was raised about the smaller counties who are going to gain from the previous CRA formula. And Madam Speaker, the rationale behind these small counties not getting what I would call adequate resources to make them run is because, Madam Speaker, these 11 counties in particular have faced a serious challenge of viability. Madam Speaker, if you look at the spirit of the Constitution, when the counties were being created under Article 6 of the Constitution and subsequent articles that divide resources in our country, Madam Speaker, the principle of the Constitution is that the counties must be viable. what are the viability options for the counties, Madam Speaker? The viability of counties, Madam Speaker, number one, is that they be able to run a government. Counties are government. And those governments must be run on the basis of non-discretionary expenses. Those non-discretionary expenses, Madam Speaker, must go and be able to run staff, must go and be able to run recurrent expenditure. And then, Madam Speaker, the viability of counties does not stop at running non-discretionary expenses. A county is only viable, Madam Speaker, if after employing people, the county can, one, provide services to its constituents, and two, can be able to have some sort of development to its constituents, Madam Speaker. What we have seen in the county of Isiolo, what we have seen in the county of Vihiga, what we have seen in the county of Samburu, what we have seen in the county of Tharaka-Nithi, what we have seen in the county of Laikipia, what we have seen in the county of Nyamira, what we have seen in the county of Taita Taveta, what we have seen in the county of Lamu, what we have seen in the county of Elgeyo Marakwet, what we have seen in the county of Kirinyaga, and lastly, what we have seen in the county of Embu, is that they can only run their non-discretionary expenses, recurrent expenses. So they are sent money to these counties, and the money, in whichever formula that is shared, is so small that they can only be able to finance salaries, Madam Speaker, and run vehicles, and run utility bills. Madam Speaker, that is not the viability of counties as was intended by the Constitution. Because then the people in those counties, Madam Speaker, end up never seeing any development. So by virtue of not giving them enough and adequate resources to be able to run services and to be able to run development budgets, Madam Speaker, we end up only giving money to individuals in those counties who, if they misappropriate the non-discretionary expenses, Madam Speaker, then we are only really creating 11 billionaires every 5 years in those counties in the form of governors. So this is a rot in the, the redistricting, or rather the formula that was used to draw the counties, Madam Speaker, and that rot cannot be corrected by simple element of delineation. It can be corrected by finding a formula that can be able to enable those counties get monies to run budgets for development and run budgets for services. And therefore, that is why when we got here as a finance and budget committee and listened to senators, the senators did propose that in lieu of that problem, let us seclude about 2 billion to make sure that we give these counties, and if possible, pass a law to ring-fence that money to go to development of those counties. Now, Madam Speaker, the reason for this amendment by Senator Mogeni from Nyamira is that that which is being ring-fenced of 2 billion, which every county will get an average of about 181 million, is not adequate enough to cushion development. It's not adequate enough to cushion service delivery. Now, we understand that. However, the proposal of 4.46 billion, Madam Speaker, I think might be edging it too far. Reason being, there is no scientific formula that guarantees all the county governments which part of the money they receive they put for development. So while I agree with the principle that we need to add just a little bit more money above the 2 billion, I think that 4.42 might be prohibitive to a conversation with other delegations from other counties. So for us to be magnanimous with these counties, I want a way forward. And I want to plead with the senators. First of all, the 11 senators who have brought this amendment through Senator Mogeni, and then the other colleagues from other bigger counties. Why can't we make it 3 billion? I think 3 billion can be a compromise that allows for proper ring-fencing money for development for these counties, but also that is not prohibitive enough to make us not pass this for this formula this week. Because, Madam Speaker, there is urgency in passing this formula this week. And I'll tell you why. While we are fighting for 387 billion, there's a bigger conversation about costing of county functions, Madam Speaker. And we have never sat as a Senate so that we use the instrument of costing county functions as a conversation between us and the national government. So we need to pass this formula by urgency this week, and then we retreat, prepare, come back to fight with the national government on how much must counties get. The issue of DORA is the next conversation that we must now invite all of us. And when we're going to that table of fighting for that money, Madam Speaker, we must go all of us. We must not have some senators from the 11 counties crying this other side, while the senators from the 36 counties also crying on this other side. We must move together. So I think that togetherness, let us all agree that, yes, the 2 billion is small, but 4.46 might also be on the higher side. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to plead with my colleagues. Let us make it 3 billion. And let us not debate it further. Let us sit down, get the 3 billion to these smaller counties, give them the power to be able to run development, reinvest that money for development, and then now we start talking about the 465 billion. That's the bigger cake. Even if we give these counties 3 billion, Madam Speaker, it will barely be enough for development in Lamu. I have passed through the places like Nyamira, Madam Speaker, when I went to visit my brother, Senator Mogeni. Things like water are still a dream to people in those areas. If you're not close to any stream of water, Madam Speaker, then women still wake up very early in the morning in Nyamira. Wake up very early in the morning in Vihiga. I visited Senator Sotsi, Madam Speaker. Wake very early in the morning in the counties of Samburu, Madam Speaker, to go and fetch water. This money won't be enough for them. Even if you were to give them 4.46 billion, Madam Speaker, that won't be enough to solve the problems in Nyamira. It won't be enough to solve the problem in Elgeyo Marakwet. It won't be enough to solve the problems in Embu, Madam Speaker. We were sent here to fight for counties to get resources adequate enough to make the devolved functions work. They cannot work at 405 billion, Madam Speaker. They can only work if we fight to make sure that counties get 465 billion, Madam Speaker. It can't be that yesterday I saw the Minister for Finance, the CS for Finance, talking very proudly about allocation of billions of money to the national government to deal with healthcare, to deal with primary healthcare, to deal with issues of water, and giving the ministry over 100 billion. Yet these counties are left here, Madam Speaker, to fight over 47 billion to deal with a devolved health function. This we cannot accept, Madam Speaker. It cannot be that the Ministry of Water, Madam Speaker, is given more money than counties combined when the entire provision of water, if you look at what we call WSPs, water service providers, Madam Speaker, they are rolling in loans, Madam Speaker, without any effort by the national government to save them. Assets have not been transferred to these water service providers, Madam Speaker. They don't even have proper asset registers, because, Madam Speaker, the national government has not agreed, has not accepted to transfer those assets to them, Madam Speaker. The moment we allow that every year we are going to be given a budget in this house that keeps on funding devolved functions and funding them to the ministerial department and agencies, Madam Speaker, we are doing a disservice to all these devolved functions, Madam Speaker. If the National Assembly, if the National Treasury want to have a conversation with the Senate that is genuine about making sure that there is service to the people, that conversation must stop at what is the real cost of running functions in this county, Madam Speaker. What is the cost of running policy functions when it comes to healthcare, and cost of running referral hospitals when it comes to healthcare, which are the only two functions given to national government, vis-a-vis running public health issues, running our hospitals, running primary health care, Madam Speaker, running SHA. All these things must go to counties. So I want to urge you, Madam Speaker, as I support this amendment, let us quickly move to agree on a position which I have proposed to be 3 billion. Let us support our brothers from smaller counties and then go and fight for more resources. And those resources, Madam Speaker, we must fight for them starting next week. Therefore, let's pass this formula this week and let's face the national government on the issue of 465 billion that must go to counties, Madam Speaker. And when we finish that fight, Madam Speaker, the next fight is going to be fighting with governors on accountability and corruption. We can't fight for 465 billion to go to counties and then governors go and waste it by having fleet of vehicles around, by building themselves into billionaires, so that every single 5 years we are creating 47 billionaires in these counties in the name of governors. It must stop. So yes, we are going to fight for our people to get money, 465 billion, but when we finish, we are coming for governors. They must stop the scourge of corruption in the money we are sending to our people in the grassroots. And that fight will come next week. And therefore I support Senator Mogany with that adjustment, that if it so suits the 11 senators, let us stop it at 3 billion, let us move forward together, and let's start the fight for DORA next week. With that, Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity, and I support.
Senator Kinyua.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kuanzia mwanzo, Bi Speaker, nataka kuunga mkono mswada wa marekebisho ambao umeletwa na Senator Okongo Omugeni.